The Umbrella Academy has reached its conclusion with the release of Season 4, and it's a show that I am sad is ending. With 2 incredible seasons, a mediocre third, this 4th and final one was something that I was looking forward to, especially because it was wrapping up the show for good. Focused on the end of the world looming again and the restoration of the original timeline, this season, despite being only 6 episodes, it packed in a story that was probably on the largest scale that it's ever been at. So, how did the show come to an end? What was the cleanse? And most importantly, was the finale actually any good? Well, let's discuss exactly that. Here is the Umbrella Academy Season 4 ending explained. Just to let you know, this video will contain spoilers. The ending explained. Well, the ending of this season actually marked the beginning, or even the continuation of just the one and only timeline. The ending meant that the Umbrella Academy essentially ceased to ever exist, and the end of the world that they were naturally causing due to the marigold that was present when they were born was erased from the planet's history, so only one timeline was left. A timeline that didn't mean doom, death, destruction, the end of the world, or a cleanse being on the horizon. Tying back to October 14th, 2006 when Ben died, the Umbrella Academy were tasked with destroying a weapon which was inside of a container, and that weapon was in fact Jennifer. Jennifer had Durango in her system, and when Durango merges with Marigold, the very thing that enables the Umbrella Academy to have their powers, it essentially causes mass destruction and for the cleanse to occur, meaning that the world as they knew it would be destroyed and extinct. This was something that we saw the entire season building towards. Ben and Jennifer had this connection due to the fact that they were both killed in one timeline on the same specific day at the same moment just after he saved her, so they were naturally drawn to one another in this timeline. This is probably due to the bleeding of the timelines and their memory of it. The cleanse was almost like a virus when the two substances merged together, hence why we saw their drastic transformation and them being impacted by it, transforming them into this monster. There were a group of people in this season called the Keepers that wanted the cleanse to occur. This was led by Jean and Jean. They were seeing artifacts from other timelines appearing in this timeline and were led to believe that the cleanse would restore the original one. The artifacts that appeared were present because the timelines were bleeding together because the Umbrella Academy were there and it was essentially collapsing. The only way for the original timeline to be restored was for the Umbrella Academy to sacrifice themselves and give up the marigold to the cleanse, so that their existence would be erased from the history of the Earth and the multiple timelines would be erased. It was on the day that they were born where the different timelines came to fruition, and if they survived this, then it would all just repeat itself. So each and every one of them needed to be prepared to die. There was no way of escaping it. They'd always need to save the world or they'd end up destroying it in every timeline. One twist that we did see occur in the final episode was that Abigail, Reginald Hargreaves' wife, was responsible for bringing about the cleanse and wanting it to happen. This is because she resented Reginald for bringing her back to life. She felt as though with Marigold and Durango being synthesized because of her and it causing the end of the world in the other timelines, she had to face the repercussions of her own actions and wanted the cleanse to occur so that the main timeline existed on its own. She felt guilty about it and didn't want to be there, so both Reginald and Abigail both died in the finale. With Five knowing what needed to be done after visiting the different versions of himself in a deli restaurant in the subway, he managed to convince all of the siblings, including Lila, who was going to leave, that they needed to give themselves up, and they all agreed to do so. With that, they were ultimately consumed by the cleanse in their former home altogether, and they no longer existed. However, the original timeline was restored, and we saw that Lila's family did manage to survive, along with Claire. Plus, we also saw what many of the characters from the previous season, such as the Swedes, the Handler, Hazel and Grace, were all doing. They were living life as normal, because they never came in contact with the Umbrella Academy or the Commission, because it never existed. So their lives weren't impacted in any way, and they were just regular humans. The post-credit scene showed 8 flowers blooming from the soil of a tree. 8 marigolds to be specific. Plus, it looked like they each glistened with the power. I wonder if that means that it's possible for the marigold to get out there in the world again, or if it was just symbolic of the 7 siblings and Lila that each had it. The original timeline was restored and peace was present in the world. August the 8th was just a regular day with no strange occurrences. So it was an all-round happy ending, despite the fact that we had to say goodbye to the characters that we came to learn to love over the past 4 seasons. My review of the final season. I think this was a real mixed bag of a season. When I see this on Netflix, I think it screams, we're done with the show and let's just find a way of finishing it. 6 episodes is a bit ridiculous, considering the 3 seasons before it had 10. And we also waited over 2 years for the show to return. The fact it was only 6 episodes did mean that the pacing was impacted. There was only one real major story that was occurring, and a lot of the side stories just felt rushed. Klaus's side quest was rather pointless, and we didn't see much of him at all. Alison was isolated for the most part, and she didn't really exhibit her powers that much. In fact, all of their powers kind of took a back seat in this season of the show, which is a bit of a shame, because when they exhibited them, they're often some of the best moments. I found Lila and Five's love arc understandable, but I just don't think it was really necessary. It just felt like an easy way for them to take up some time. Jean and Jean were kind of like the Hazel and Cha-Cha, but they didn't come close in terms of living up to the villains of the show. I also felt a bit confused throughout it, as I didn't quite understand why it was that Reginald was just able to pretty much control entire cities and towns. It was never really delved into that much. I understand that it was to keep Jennifer away, but it felt like there was a larger reach than that. So Reginald Hargreaves was a genius in previous seasons, and let's remember as well, he's an alien. But in this season, he didn't quite live up to his former self. Plus, I also missed Pogo. The main cast delivered really strong performances, and I am gutted that we won't see them reprise their roles again. I feel they were almost cheated out of a great final season, and it was cut short for them. One thing that did bother me slightly in the story was the absence of Sloane. I'm confused as to why Ben could make it to the timeline as a Sparrow, but she couldn't. We got glimpses of Luther being upset over being without her and almost wanting the life that Diego despised because he loved her deeply. But due to the lack of time in the season, it was a theme that was never really delved into. But it would have allowed us to have understood a different side to the character and provided some added emotion. Ultimately, I think this show just ended up moving quite far away from what it once was in the early days of Season 1 and Season 2. And I think the repetitive nature of the world just ending constantly was something that became its own worst enemy, because they needed different ways of being able to execute the same storyline and keeping it fresh. And the fact that there were only 6 episodes just makes me feel as though that they didn't even really try that much with this season. They just wanted to wrap it up as quickly as possible. The Umbrella Academy are known for being together, and it just felt like a lot of them were separated and doing their own things this time round. But things that didn't even really matter. Diego and Luther being in the CIA building amounted to absolutely nothing. Luther's discovery was pointless because the only reason the final part of the episode happened was because they caught it on the news. Nobody was out looking for Ben and Jennifer other than Victor, so they didn't really work as a team that much in this season, something that I thought was a shame. Will I miss the Umbrella Academy? Yeah, I think I will. I'll miss how good it once was and the glossy nature that it has. It's gorgeous to look at, and the way that it's graded and shot is so nice on the eye. However, I do think it lost a bit of its identity in this season, and there were moments where it felt like it was trying to be a bit like The Boys in terms of the graphic nature and the way that some of the powers were utilised. But Season 1 and Season 2 are 2 seasons that I'll look back fondly on. This ending worked. Was it the best that it could have been? Probably not, but I thought it was a watchable season of the show with a conclusion that I'm satisfied with. So, there you have it, The Umbrella Academy Season 4 ending explained. If you want to see a breakdown of every season of The Umbrella Academy, then click on the card in the top corner, or alternatively you can head over to my channel where you'll find all the videos. What did you think of the final season? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. As always, thanks for tuning into the video, and I'll see you in the next one.